fantastic. It doesn't even bother you. What happens is, in a recent study, there's something called cardiolipin in the mitochondrial membrane. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. That's a power plant for your cells. And when you modulate what it's made out of, what you're doing is you're telling your body, look, if you don't have power plants that can turn on and make energy really, really quickly, then you're doing it wrong. It'll actually make new power plants for you, and you get to benefit from those all day long. So that's number one. Cold showers for at least 3 days in a row. You can skip a day after that if you really want to.
Now, I can tell you, I do agree with the biohack of cold showers, but I'm not going to follow Dave Osprey on this. I don't believe that you just stick your forehead into a cold shower. And Moneybag73 has been doing the cold showers from Wim Hof. And I follow Wim Hof's breathing method, which has led me to the ability to actually take an ice bath due to this cold shower technique. So I don't necessarily agree with this, and I think that sometimes people can get migraines, and I think if you're going to do a cold shower cleanse, or if you're going to do a cold shower biohack for yourself, your body, and your brain, that you should really look into this. You should really do your own research and find out what techniques are available and pick one that works best for you. I don't take away from my endorsement of doing this, and I don't think Moneybags would either. And anybody else who's done the cold showers will relate that he is right in saying the first time you do it, it's daunting. The second time, it sucks. The third time, something magical kind of kicks in, and you're okay with this kind of a technique. In Boy Scouts, we had to jump into the cold lake before the sun came up, says Bones88. I agree with that. Yes, Earth Daughter, I'm totally biohacked if fuck you's explanation is on point. I totally do agree. Again, if you're going to do the cold water biohack, you're going to want to make sure that you do what's best for you.
Number two, you got to do something about bright light. The number of people who by the end of the day, you just feel blown out. Like, I'm tired, I've had sugar cravings all afternoon, I'm driving home, and I just don't have anything left. Here's what I do when I'm indoors. I put on glasses that block some, but not all, of the blue light. This is called True Dark glasses, and I started this company. I don't operate it, but it's something I started because it makes such a big difference for me. You'll see.
Now, this guy really likes to talk about the companies and the products that he's put out, and he's talking about a blue blocker sunglass. And if you remember back in the late 90s, early 80s, there was the blue blocker sunglass commercial. Do you remember this? The guy rapping in the streets of Florida? Put a 1 in the chat room if you remember blue blockers, which was incredible. It was one of these things where, you know, these lights made everything look HD because you wore these sunglasses. Welcome back, Moneybags. We were just talking about you, so you must have got the drift that we were speaking about you. But put a 1 in the chat room if you do remember blue blockers. And there is something neuroscience related to biohacking and the blue blockers concept. Being able to block out that blue light is very important, whether you get the sunglasses from blue blockers or whether you get them from Dave Osprey.
You'll see me in most of my videos wearing these glasses because I have twice as much energy at the end of the day. You'd be amazed. It's at truedark.com, and they're affordable. They make you look like a rock star, but most importantly, cutting out the blue light that stresses your brain, it completely changes things. You wouldn't even believe it.
I'm so glad to see so many 1s. So many people that remember the Blue Blockers infomercials. Queen of Swords with the 1, My Life with a 1, Darkwolf's Den with a 1, Earth Daughter with a 1. Not Chiquita says, yep, 1. Blue Blockers for sure. Josh from Oregon remembering. Oh, 1. JoJo's even remembers Blue Blockers. You remember that guy, JoJo's, that had the Mexican sombrero on his head, and he had the keyboard on like Venice Beach, and he was rapping the Blue Blockers song. So either way, like I said, it doesn't matter where you get these blue light blockers, but I do believe in the science of blocking the blue light as a biohack for what it can do for us. And here's his explanation.
Is what breakfast is called. When you sleep,
apparently his explanation has been delayed.
My videos wearing these glasses because I have twice as much energy at the end of the day.
That is true. When you wear them, you see everything in HD, and you do feel like you have a little extra energy kick just by wearing
it's
them.
It's at TrueDark.com.
TrueDark.com if you're interested in Dave's glasses, because the blue blockers are not available anymore. You can't find them. I looked, and I was going to hope to play the commercial. I couldn't even play the commercial, and I'm so glad so many of you can remember this commercial. I need to find that, so if any of you have a link to the blue blockers rap, I'd like to have that and play that on air. Wife is too busy. And that's right. Moneybags 73 is going to be here tomorrow night, by the way, folks. And we're going to do an on-air few moments discussing our Mandela monthly installment, which is coming up the first weekend of every month. And Moneybags is going to be here to give us a little update live tomorrow night. So make sure you tune in to that.
Fast is what breakfast is called. When you sleep, if you sleep for 8 hours, you're basically going a little while without food. But if instead you say, I'm only going to have either black coffee, tea, or even bulletproof coffee without any of the collagen protein added, your body has zero insulin and it has zero protein digestion going on. So what you end up with is by noon, you're not hungry, surprisingly not hungry, but now instead of going 8 hours, you might have gone for 12 hours, 14 hours, even 16 hours without food. And during that time, all those enzymes in your body that would have been responsible for digesting food go in and clean up your cells.
That's a great question, Fakyu. I believe it was actually the breathing method. And Wim Hof and his breathing method, I believe, was adapted very early on, in very early native life, especially if you joined us last Sunday as we talked about ancient Ripon, and we think about these Aboriginal tribes that were able to withstand such drastically cold Wisconsin winters. I believe that the Wim Hof method of breathing, in addition to soaking themselves in the ice of Wisconsin lakes, was probably one of the very earliest of biohacks. Again, we have evidence that some of the occupational period in that area goes back 14, 15,000 years ago, which is before the Roman Empire, which is before the ancient Greeks, which is before the Egyptian pyramids. So again, I kind of believe that that happened very early on. Fuck you. Blue blockers rap. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oops. Something went wrong in the chat when I tried to click that link. Let me see if I can open it in a new window. Nope, something went wrong with that link, by the way, my life. I am unable to see that link. Every time I click it, it says, oops, something went wrong. But I do thank you for sharing that, but apparently I can't do it from here. So again,
you'd be amazed at how good you feel, how invigorated you feel, how much lighter you feel. You can lose weight, your muffin top shrinks, and more importantly, your brain works better. Here's a word of warning though. It's going to feel really good once you get used to doing it, but that doesn't mean you need to do it every single day. Especially if you're young, you're going to be like, I've got this, I'm never having breakfast again. Well, when you're under times of extra stress, extra strain, or if you're trying to lose weight, you know what? Have some protein and some fat in the morning. So when you have weight to lose, or you're just under extra stress, or for women, intermittent fast every other day, you'll find that it's more sustainable and it works better. But skipping breakfast saves you money, saves you time, and it makes you feel better. That's a huge return on investment for you. The fourth biohack, it's about sleep. There are so many things you can do to change the quality of how you sleep. I've written dozens of blogs on sleep hacks, but here's one you probably haven't heard of. This came out in my most recent book called Game Changers. If you raise the height of the head of your bed by about 6 inches, it can improve the quality of your sleep. So what I'm proposing you do is you get a couple bricks or wooden blocks or whatever other way you want. You lift up the head of your bed and put one underneath each side.
Now, I love the idea of elevating the bed, and I do seem to recall that there was a point in history where beds were much shorter than they are today, very early on, during the early pandemic days, during the early, ages of virus and this kind of stuff. Beds seemed shorter back then, and I seem to recall that beds were shorter back then because the difficulty in the respiratory viruses and the fevers that went rampant in the 1918s caused for people to have to sleep sitting up in their bed, which enhanced their breathing through the night, which was a preventative measure for them. So I think this idea of raising the bed is a intriguing one.
It'll feel a little bit weird for the first night or two. But what happens at night is that your brain, all the cells in your brain, they dehydrate themselves. They actually lose their water, and then they change their water. I call it a brainwash. And they get rid of toxic proteins that build up during the day at night. So this thing called the glymphatic system literally pumps the cells out and replaces the water. Well, wouldn't it be amazing if when the cells were pumped out, all the stuff that was pumped out could flow downhill to get away from the brain? It turns out that really interesting thing happens around risk of stroke and heart attack, and really cool research that came out of Germany. The other thing, while you're at it, just do not turn on the light when you get up to go.
Now, that's an interesting one, too. Unless it's a black light, so that you can check and make sure that there's no scorpions at the foot of your bed. Maybe it's Mandela. There are glasses, perhaps like blue blockers, that are supposed to help with motion sickness, that have a moving liquid in them that tricks your eyes not to get sick. I want to try that too. Get so sick in cars, and I know motion sickness happens whether it's in cars or a roller coaster, and I'm curious as to what extremes you can take that. Like if you wear these glasses, will you not get car sick? But if you wear them and you suffer motion sickness on like a high-speed roller coaster, will that work too? Interesting. I want to look for these glasses. Again, thank you for the Freddy link last night. Oh, man, seared is the best. Josh is going to have steak tonight. Well, Earth Daughter is talking about keto and intermittent fasting. Keto is very interesting. And again, the fasting, the suggestion to skip the breakfast, I think possibly is a good one. I eat personally one time a day. I don't eat a breakfast. I don't eat typically a lunch. However, in the last 30 days, Nikki Rabbit and I have been doing salads for lunch, which I really enjoy. But again, these are the absolute hacks that one can do that don't involve plugging into Wi-Fi or all these other things. I'm going to go from veg to straight out cannibal. All the cool people are cannibals, like Madonna and Chelsea Clinton, Meryl Streep. Actually, another Mandela effect, perhaps. Na Chiquita says Meryl Streep's with an S, but I remember Meryl Streep. Now, Moneybags is going to come on tomorrow, and we're going to talk about what we're going to do for the monthly installment, which happens the first week of every month on Mandela Monthly. And apparently, according to Jerry DarkWolf's Den and some Schumann resonance and some things that will be discussed, apparently the Mandela effects are on the uprise right now. So exciting stuff. Make sure that you tune in tomorrow night. Well, Moneybags 73 will be here for a live update on what our May edition. Can you believe it's going to be May already? Unbelievable. We'll insane.
To go to the bathroom, do not turn on the lights when you're brushing your teeth. Do it either in mostly darkness, get a little red night light, or you can do it all the way down to red and night light. But when you turn at night, it tells something called the melanopsin sensors, which are in 5% of the cells in your eyes, to tell the middle of your brain, called the SCN, hey, it's daytime. Because at no time in human history did we ever have bright lights for 5 seconds except during the day. So it confuses your timing systems. And even though you go back to sleep, your sleep quality goes to crap. What you want to be able to do is have super high quality sleep, which means by definition darkness. A recent study in Japan just came out that talked about how 800 adults were measured for depression in completely dark rooms or sleeping in rooms that had the equivalent amount of light that's coming through from street lights coming around curtains. And they found a 73% increase in depression in people who had just a small amount of light. So black out your bedroom, raise the height of your bed, and see if when you wake up you feel like a great golden god, because that's how you're supposed to feel when you wake up.
Right, Clemson? I'm sorry. I digress. I go back to biohack.
The final biohack for you to try is one that I do with my kids every single night. It is so incredibly powerful, it doesn't cost anything, and the return on investment for this is almost infinite. And every night I sit down with my kids and I say, tell me 3 things you're grateful for. Now, gratitude has a profound effect on your nervous system, which has a profound effect on your cellular biology. It's that big of a deal. You cannot simultaneously be in fight or flight mode, stressing about something, or replaying the day's events, or just being reactive, when you go, wow, something cool you can be grateful for.
Now, the show that we did last night, and we think about the fight or flight mode here. Put one thing in the chat that you're grateful for today. Just put whatever it is. It could be simple. It could be something small. It doesn't have to be elaborate. But choose one thing in a simple sentence, a few words, and just enter in chat what it is that you're grateful for today. I'm curious not only to see the similarities, but I'm curious what people will pick up on, especially today in 2020, April 17th. Friday night, what it is that you guys will be grateful, and thankful for. What are you going to put into the chat room? I'll be back. Hopefully you don't bail before putting it in what it is that you're grateful for. Guacamole, says Bones88. I am absolutely grateful for fantastic. I'm grateful for oxygen too. I can agree with you. Patrick Roberts, our new timeline. Hello, Joho. My life says my kids. I can agree with that, my life. I am grateful for my kids. Moneybag73 says, no anew on Notch. Go read my comment. I'm not sure what that means. I'm grateful for my phone so I can hang out with y'all, says Nachikita. But the technological Earth Daughter says, my husband. A very sincere response. Just for the beauty degree weather, backdropped. I love that, Josh, that you put there. It makes it feel real. And I'm thankful for those beautiful backdropped Cascade Mountains. Although Mount Charleston is about as close to Cascade as we're going to get. Michael Fontaine says, my kids, who just recently had a daughter who celebrated a birthday. Again, in total agreement with you in my life. My kids is something that I'm grateful for. Queen of Swords joining in the parenting circle there with my son. I absolutely agree. We have to take into consideration not just our gratefulness, but the things that we've done for our gratefulness. I'm grateful to meet with this group of friends 4 times a week, says Darkwolf's Den. Wow, Jerry, I'm grateful for the same thing. I'm grateful to meet with this group too. I really love all of you. I love these times that we spend together talking about these topics. They're fantastic. Fuck you then. I've stopped counting new MEs, trying to figure out what is next. Keep up with the excellent work, Moneybag73. Shout out to Moneybags. Maybe it's Mandela. My son, grateful for her son, with 3 heart emojis. And that's, again, the we are grateful for, especially today.
You could say, this is the worst day I've ever had, but I got to have a bite of chocolate. Focus on the chocolate. It doesn't really matter. Find 3 things, 3 tiny things. You can write them down. You can tell them to your spouse. You can tell them to your cat. It doesn't really matter. When you do this, we can measure changes in your brain waves, in the way your heart beats, in the electrical resistance on your skin. So gratitude is a state of high performance, and it's one you can turn on just by doing this. And that is the most important thing you can do. Some people like it in the morning. Some people like it at night. Some people do both. Some people do it over dinner. Doesn't really matter. Pick one, do it every single day for the rest of your life. You will become a better human being, and your cells will work better too.
You can tell it to your cat, even if your cat is sassy. JoJo's, it's so fun. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for Jerry Darkwolf's Den, Moneybags73, who brought us all together. I'm very grateful for him. Patrick Roberts, our new timeline. All of you. Josh from Oregon's connections that we've made here at the Rip and Very precious. And something that I'm grateful for. And I love when we do the on-air experiments and we talk about lucid dreams with Juanito, 1975. And maybe it's Mandela with her Freddy Krueger information, which blows my mind, by the way. Absolutely blows my mind. We are in those times, whether we like it or not. And when we go back through the past episodes we've done, we're under the same roof. No matter what, no matter how we look at it, we're under the same roof. And when one of us chooses to biohack, perhaps all of us will. Will we have a chance to say no? Will we have a chance to opt? I saw on Vanessa VA's YouTube channel this week a video that really caused me to think about that. Will we have a chance to opt out? And if you saw this video too, you know what I'm talking about. But again, when we start to think about these advancements, and we lose bringing sight to somebody who can see, these are remarkable things. I saw videos of children getting hearing aids and hearing their mother's voice for the first time, which brought tears to my eyes. These are beautiful miracles created through the gift of biohacking. And as we've said, sometimes the good, the bad, the ugly kicks in. But we're not necessarily there yet.
So our research, it's a decades-long experiment in uploading the human mind to a new form.
Yep, you heard it right. Uploading the human mind to a new form. How about that, folks? Would you like to upload your brain to the cloud? Because what you're going to hear tonight allows you to actually do just that.
In the case of Bina 48, it's just the beginning. It's a very primitive example of capturing the consciousness, the personality, the mannerisms, the attitudes, and the beliefs of a person. In this case, Bina Rothblatt is the first volunteer, and she's helping us. We are the Terrasem Movement Foundation, and our project is called the Life Knot Project, like astronaut, only life knot, because we're going to explore, is it possible to upload human minds to new forms like robots or avatars? It's a scientific study. We don't know the answer, but we're living the question, is this possible? So I spent many, many hours videotaping, interviewing Bina, the human, about her likes, her dislikes, her memories, her attitudes, her beliefs. This information was then database, and then we spent intelligence to use this information to reanimate her personality, world a glimpse. What we do is, if it's possible form, then something else becomes possible, which is you can go mobile. From the beginning of day, maybe we'll build you a new body, and you can put a new mind in a new body.
Wow. You can put a new mind in a new body. How about that?
On one level, this is a decade-long experiment of technology, and another...
Seriously, what you're listening to right now, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. This is lifeknot.com. Lifeknot.com. Learn more. And this is a real thing, people. This is something that you can do right now, today, brain, or begin to upload your brain.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This is your man Meta, aka Propagate This Light, and you're now listening to Darkwolf's Den.
Are ghosts real?
We had 1,000 hours of continuous communication with the spirit world.
Does time travel actually exist?
The laws of physics seem to be compatible with time machines.
You know, sometimes I wonder about reincarnation. Don't you?
A 4-year-old boy in Adelaide, Australia, has told his parents that he used to be Britain's Princess Diana.
What would happen if the world found out that aliens were real?
I didn't say disclosure would be easy, but what is the alternative?
To establish a space force as the 6th branch of the armed forces.
We have so many questions and yet so little time, so to have you here, the pleasure is all mine.
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the Darkwolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to another episode of the Darkwolf's Den Show. Can you believe it, guys? We made prime time. It's Saturday night. That's right. Ow, yeah. So excited we can't even get the howl out. You hear that? All right, guys, whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, like I said, it is Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. Oh, yeah. And tonight, we're going to talk about Immortals. That's right. See, this is October. This is Spooktober, actually. So we're going to try to keep the scary theme here on the entire network, not just on AJ the Rippin' Rabbit Show, but the entire network. So tonight, we're going to talk about those that may still walk the earth and be immortal. But first, today in history. This is actually a very huge and important day in history today. On this day in 1990, Germany is reunited as a single country from East and West Germany into a single one. ending a 45 division following World War II and the Cold War that followed. I'm sure a lot of us remember the Cold War very well, especially if you lived through the 80s or maybe even a decade before that. But ladies and gentlemen, that is today's Today in History. Man, what an incredible day in history. And when it comes to talking about history, with this topic, history is really intriguing, isn't it? Just think, there could be some people on this earth who have been walking the earth through every historical event that has ever occurred. Could you even imagine trying to remember back that far, right? I can barely remember what happened when I was a teenager, right? Well, could you imagine trying to remember 100 years ago if you lived that long? Could living a long time be a blessing or a curse, right? Would having immortality be a good thing or a bad thing? We might dip into that question here a little later, but, you know, it makes you wonder. Back in the time travel episode, we touched on a phenomenon called the time-traveling celebrities, but perhaps these celebrities didn't time travel at all. Perhaps they have actually been around that long.
Some celebrities who've been around much longer than they'd like for us to know. We may not know exactly what they are, but today we're going to speculate. Vampires, time travelers, immortal gods. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
And I think it's no surprise right now that I would have my money on Immortals, but let's see what he has to present.
Keanu Reeves. We're starting with our buddy Keanu. Many people believe that Keanu Reeves is actually an immortal Paul Monet. Paul Monet was a 19th century French actor and celebrity in Paris. Not only are they both actors, but they look eerily similar as well.
To say these guys could pass as the same person is an understatement. These guys look, if not identical, to me.
Adding to this mystery is the fact that Monet died back in 1922, but his body was never found.
It's kind of hard to prove someone is dead if you don't have a body to prove it with, huh?
There's also a portrait from 1570 AD by Girolamo Francesco Maria Mazzola, and it also looks exactly like Keanu Reeves.
It's almost like you can trace some of these guys through history, right? And this isn't the only one. This is just the first one.
And if you want to go even further back, why not go out to 768 AD, when Keanu was the king of the Franks, Charlemagne. Furthering this suspicion, he crowned his son to be king before his death and had a rushed burial with very little in attendance.
This odd death theme seems to follow these guys that look like Keanu Reeves, or I dare I say is Keanu Reeves, perhaps.
What is he exactly? A time traveler? A vampire? We may never know. Peter Dinklage.
Many of you may recognize that particular actor from the show Game of Thrones, among other things that he has done.
How about Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage? Did he play the part of court jester to Philip IV of Spain from the 17th century? If you take a look at this painting by Spanish artist Diego Velázquez, then you'll see some striking similarities and facial features. Wow.
And again, the facial features are quite strikingly similar. I wouldn't say identical in this particular case, but being that it is a painting, it is strikingly similar both in shape, proportion of body, as well as facial structure. So intriguing there, I gotta say.
Mark Zuckerberg. Speaking of King Philip IV of Spain, he looks just like American entrepreneur and co-founder of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. Oh, and don't worry, this stuff gets a lot weirder.
Well, we all know that Mark Zuckerberg definitely has a taste for power, so him being a ruler over a community or a kingdom of some type does seem quite fitting considering his position now. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Orlando Bloom. Did you know that Orlando Bloom was an art collector? He really is. But did you know that in his past life he was a Romanian painter that goes by the name Nicolae Grigorescu? He was born in 1838 and painted hundreds of pieces of art all over Europe. Nicolas Cage. According to this painting and many internet conspiracy theorists, Nicolas Cage isn't just immortal. He is a vampire, and he's been around a really, really long time.
This is yet another one that you can almost track through history.
Not only does he resemble this man from 1870, but he also looks a lot like the Mexican Emperor Maximilian I of Mexico. Now get this, if this was Nicolas Cage, the Mexican Emperor was supposedly assassinated on June 19th, 1876. Just a few years before that very first photo we showed you was taken. Really creepy.
And I have actually seen a number of paintings and different examples in history where Nicolas Cage's face is almost identical. There's another person who has a face that has been repeated all through history, and that is the Harry Potter star himself, Mr. Daniel Radcliffe, mainly on females, interestingly enough. But his face has been repeated across a lot of history, or perhaps he is yet another immortal. And I know a lot of you saying, okay, now you're kind of drawing straws, you're starting out with celebrities, and I am starting out with something fun, but let's go in a little bit deeper. So let's say that these celebrities are just by chance happen to look like, have the perfect face, and just by chance happen to look like those that may have lived before. Because maybe there are only so many facial structures to go around. I don't know. There's a lot of maybes here, but we're good at maybes here, right? All right. So what if there were other examples of people who may walk the earth that have been around for a very, very long time? For example, what if there were some Christian or religious examples? Believe it or not, there are a couple religious examples, starting with one that is... I think it's non-canonical. It's not directly in the Bible. I couldn't tell you where to go to look at this. As a matter of fact, I think it's actually Jewish lore and literature, but that we're going to present now, ladies and gentlemen, the story of the Wandering Jew. Now, again, I didn't make this up. I didn't name the story. Don't get mad at me. That's the name of the tale. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ahasuerus, the Wandering Jew.
On the day that Jesus was to be crucified, he carried his cross from Jerusalem to the place of the skull. Many people followed him, and many people stood in their doorways to watch him pass.
So this occurs just moments before the crucifixion of Christ upon the cross in the Golgotha.
There was one man, a shoemaker named Ahasuerus, who hated Jesus more than anyone else. He had been at the front of the mob calling on Pilate to crucify him, and then had ran back to his home where he knew Jesus would pass, so that he could jeer him and taunt him.
So he wanted to make it very clear that he could not stand the figure known as Jesus.
Having stumbled twice under the weight of the cross on the road to Calvary, Christ stumbles a third time, this time by the door of Ahasuerus.
And of course, we do know according to the Bible itself that he stumbled multiple times on his way carrying the cross, so this does verify that also.
The shoemaker pushes Christ away, telling him to get a move on. He mocks him, slaps him, taunts him, and laughs at him. I will move on, Christ answers as he struggles to regain his feet.
And what comes next is so simple and yet so incredibly powerful.
But you will tarry until I come again.
To tarry means to wander. You will wander until I come again. Now remember, Jesus is going to be crucified on the cross, right? And he's not going to be back around for a while.
The man then joined the crowd following Christ and stayed until the end of the crucifixion. That evening he returned home and bid farewell to his wife and child and began wandering, having heard a voice telling him to go on. From that point onward, Ahasuerus was condemned to wander the earth, from nation to nation, land to land, rootless, at home both nowhere and everywhere, until Jesus makes his return.
And again, this is right out of the Christian lore. But that's not the end of the story, actually. There has been evidence to suggest that he may still be tarrying to this day. As a matter of fact, there may have been those that have actually seen him.
He's only ever allowed to stop here and there for short respites. His shoes and clothes never wear out completely, but are always maintained in that poor, deteriorating state.
Could you imagine? Today's standards would look like a bum, right? Just your casual bum walking down the street. You wouldn't know in your world that it was immortal at all, or if it was just another you and me, right? That is such an interesting thing that even the clothes themselves will tarry down and be rags and in the same condition in which they always were. That is intriguing, but that's not even the end of the story.
He's able to speak every language in the world, enabling him to blend in wherever he goes. He's lived for over 2,000 years, and so has seen firsthand countless historical events of great importance, and knows every story there is to tell.
Could you imagine living that long enough to learn every language on the earth? To be cursed to walk the earth your entire life, only stopping for small periods of respite, but having to walk the earth and live through all these different things that occur.
He's seen kingdoms and empires rise and fall, kings and tyrants come and go, and he's always there at the end.
After seeing so much death and kingdoms rise and kingdoms fall and people come and go, you couldn't even have a friend, right? A regular human friend, because they would die and you wouldn't. That would make one quite a cynical person, I could imagine.
Many years after the curse was put on him, he came back to Jerusalem, but it was nothing but a heap of ruins. The city had been destroyed, and he knew that his wife and children had been long dead. His beard grows down to his feet, and he carries 5 coins in his pocket, one for each of Christ's wounds.
Now, that's an interesting little note, too. Paying the price for the wounds or the suffering, right? 1 coin for every wound on Jesus Christ. That's interesting.
He does age, but once every century, he miraculously rejuvenates, shedding his skin like a snake, and then re-emerging as this 30-year-old self, as he was at the time of the crucifixion.
Which means the person wouldn't look out of place or look like they weren't aging. They just happen to revert in age after a certain point.
This process has repeated itself over and over and over again ever since Jesus cursed him, and will continue to repeat itself until Jesus comes again.
But have there been any cases of him actually being spotted in more recent or, more current times?
He's been spotted every now and then over the centuries, wandering out on the moors of Britain and Ireland, carrying his staff and a heavy heart. From the late 1200s until the mid-1600s, the Jews were banned from England after King Edward Longshanks' edict of expulsion. That is, except one. No king could keep out this ghostly wanderer, who would disappear here and reappear there.
And believe it or not, that is not the only religious story of those that have been told to tarry the earth until Jesus' return. This is actually the first one that I've heard of that was done as a curse by Jesus, and that is interesting, isn't it? We don't usually hear about Jesus cursing people. Not to say that the guy didn't deserve the punishment, but it's intriguing that there's not only 1 but 2 stories of Jesus actually giving immortality to people, giving the gift and or curse of immortality. And that again is yet to be determined, gift or curse, right? But the Mormons believe it was very much a gift granted to 3 what's called Nephites in their Book of Mormon that met Jesus when Jesus was crucified. According to the Mormons, he walked the earth and went to every nation upon the earth and talked and spoke with them. And according to the Mormons, once again, he spoke with what was left of what was called the Nephite nation, and they 3 of them requested to continue to carry on and do the work of Christ. Ergo, they were granted, according to Mormon literature, 3 of them were granted immortality. So there's 4 people, according to Christian literature, that have been granted immortality, but that still doesn't match the 7 in Hindu literature. That's right. The Hindus actually have 7 within theirs that they believe are immortal.
One of the oldest languages in India, Sanskrit, tells us that Chiran means long or permanent and Jivi means living. Hence, Chiranjeevi means immortal. Hindu religious texts describe 7 Chiranjeevis or immortals who will exist till the end of Kali Yuga.
And from the way I understand it, Kali Yuga, or the time frame of the Kali Yuga, is the time frame we're living in right now.
Some religious texts explain that each of these immortals represents an attribute of humanity, and their purpose is to guide Kalki, the last avatar of Vishnu. Simli Chuma presents the 7 mortals as per Hindu religion.
And what's really cool is this information is new to me too. I did not find this until I went to doing the research for this episode, so all of this is just as new to you, well, at least most of you. There may be 1 or 2 of you in here that actually know this already, but for most of you, this will be just as new as it is to me.
Number 7, Ashwathama. Ashwathama, born to Dronacharya and Kripi, is one of the 11 Rudras and possesses the same valor as Lord Shiva. Ashwathama fought for the Kauravas in the Kurukshetra battle. He and his maternal uncle Kripacharya are the only 2 survivors of the war. Ashwathama, an invincible warrior, is believed to be the master of science of weapons. He possesses complete mastery over 64 forms of arts and 18 Vidya or branches of knowledge. Religious texts say that he will be the next Vyasa and also become one of the Saptarishis.
So this particular immortal is known to be a great warrior.
Number 6, Bali. Born to Prahlada, one of the greatest devotees in Hindu mythology, Mahabali was known for his valor and charity. Although he was an Asura, Mahabali was very pious, religious, and a righteous king who took great care of his subjects. His empire extended from the Vindhyas in the north to far down south, with Kerala as his capital. Lord Vishnu took the form of a Vamana or a small boy and asked the king for 3 strides of land. Mahabali agreed. The Vamana grew in size and measured the entire sky and earth with 2 strides. Unable to fulfill his promise, Mahabali asked Vishnu to place the 3rd stride on his head. This sent him to Patalok. But impressed by his benevolence and humility, Lord Vishnu blessed him to be a Chiranjeevi. He also granted him the boon of being the Indra during the time of the 8th Manu.
This reminds me of the classic sacrifice story. Because he could not fulfill his end of the bargain, he asked that the giant Vishnu squish him, which he did, and did incur death momentarily until he was brought back and made an immortal. So that's an interesting story.
Once every year, Mahabali descends on earth to visit his people, and they warmly welcome him by celebrating the day as Onam.
So they truly believe that he comes back to the earth every year to visit them.
Number 5, Veda Vyasa. Born to sage Parashara and Satyavati, he was named Krishna Dvaipayana. Vyasa means compiler in Sanskrit. He is famously known as Veda Vyasa as he classified the Vedas. It is believed that Vyasa is one of the forms of Lord Vishnu, who came in Dwapar Yuga to make the Vedic knowledge available in written form. He also split the Vedas into 4 to make it easy to read. The famous epic Mahabharata was composed and narrated by him to Lord Ganesha, who was his scribe. He also appeared as a character in the epic. His birthday is celebrated as Vyasa Purnima or Guru Purnima throughout India.
And I find it really intriguing that these are all the characters that would be the representations of the gods in this particular time frame, the Kali Yuga time frame, because apparently, according to them, this is the last time frame before the restart of the Yugas again. So these will tarry till the end, at least the end of this Yuga, whatever that may mean or incur.
Number 4, Hanuman. One of the foremost devotees of Lord Rama, Hanuman was born as Maruti to the monkey King Kesari and his wife Anjana. He is believed to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva. Lord of the Wind, Vayu is known to be his godfather, and hence he is also called Vayuputra. In the Ramayana, it is Hanuman who found Sita in Lanka. He sat above a tree in Ashok Vatika and saw many Rakshasis troubling her. To motivate her, he recited the Ramayana and gave her Lord Rama's ring. Thrilled to see Lord Rama's messenger, Sita blessed him with immortality.
And if this character Sita sounds familiar in Ramayana, it is because we actually spoke about those characters back during the episode of Ancient Flying Machines, actually, just a couple episodes ago. We spoke about how the Vimana was used and taken after Lord Rama went and got his bride Sita that had been stolen from him, right?
It is believed that wherever Lord Rama's name is chanted, Hanuman will be present there. Few sages of this era like Tulsidas, Raghavendra and Madhavacharya are believed to have got his darshan.
And these tales are a little different than the classic given immortality tales. I love it.
Number 3, Vibhishana, the youngest son of sage Vishrava and Kaikasi. Vibhishana was the brother of the 10-headed Ravana and the mighty Kumbhakarna. Although born in a demon family, Vibhishana was righteous, pious and an ardent devotee of Lord Rama. He did not appreciate his brother abducting someone else's wife. Despite his repeated request and advice, Ravana continued to keep Sita captive and decided to wage a war against Lord Rama. Constantly insulted by his brother, Vibhishana surrendered to Lord Rama. In fact, it was Vibhishana who disclosed the secret of Ravana's end to Lord Rama, helping him vanquish him. Lord Rama not only crowned him as the king of Lanka, but also granted him the boon of immortality.
And again, it's a deeper information bit about the same story we heard back during the Ancient Flying Machines episode, where once again we discussed this and how he took the Vimana once again after the end of the battle. But this is interesting that we have a different aspect or a different viewpoint of the exact same story coming up once again later on in a couple episodes, huh? And it's interesting how many of these characters really have been granted immortality, because it makes you wonder how many immortals could actually be walking the earth. We're not even halfway through the episode yet, and we've already covered quite a few.
Number 2, Kripacharya. One of the prominent characters in the Mahabharata, Kripa is also known as Kripacharya. Although born to Shardvana and Janapadi, he was adopted by King Shantanu. His twin sister Kripi married the great warrior Drona. Kripa became an acharya or teacher to the royal children. He fought on the Kaurava side in the Mahabharata war and was one of the survivors. Bhishma declared Kripa as a mighty warrior who was capable of fighting 60,000 warriors simultaneously. He was adept in the mastery of weapons and combat skills. He was appointed as the teacher of Parikshit, the grandson of Arjuna. Kripa is also believed to become a Saptarishi in Kali Yuga.
And yet again, another warrior who, through honor and strength, has earned their way into immortality, according to the ancient Sanskrit text of the Mahabharata.
Number 1, Parashurama. Born to sage Jamadagni and Renuka, Parashurama is said to be the 6th incarnation of Lord Vishnu in the Dashavatar. He received his bow Vijaya and axe from Lord Shiva, who also taught him Kalaripayattu, the mother of all martial arts. His father was killed by the mighty king Kartavirya Arjuna. Hence Parashurama decided to rid the world of Kshatriyas. He is said to have single-handedly conquered the world and killed over crores of Kshatriyas. Parashurama was the teacher to warriors like Bhishma, Drona and Karna. Meghnad, Ravana's son, and Parashurama are the 2 humans who possess the 3 ultimate weapons, Brahmandastra, Vaishnavastra and Pashupatastra. Religious texts quote that Parashurama will reappear as a martial arts teacher to the 10th avatar of Lord Vishnu, Kalki.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, were the 7 Hindu immortals. That's right. So much we've covered here in the first half, and we've covered a lot of religious and hypothetical, ideas and speculative ideas. But in the second half, we're going to dig more into the historical case files and talk about a couple characters from history that we actually have documented that may actually have gained immortality. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we'll be right back for the second half of the Darkwolf's Den Show. Prime time. That's right, baby. Right here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. Don't you touch that dial.
We gotta stoke the fires and run off the men in black. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Sex in the city? Nope. Interview with a vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? 2 E's in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect. Unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the hey? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver, no way, Jose. I remember before the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say we just remembered and call us bat crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela effect flow. Mandela effect in the house. What in the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, yay! American Family Publishers, never heard of them until now. This Mandela effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope, wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution? Cause the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution. Mandela effect in the house. No, I'm not going crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. Oh wait, Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the owl? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy. Anyhow.
This is definitely the Twilight Zone, the most famous Mandela rap in YouTube history. Juanito, 1975. Hi, everybody. It's AJ, the Rippin' Rabbit. Are you enjoying tonight's Saturday night with Jerry Hicks and the Darkwolf's Den Show, his look at the Immortals? If you haven't done so already, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best in Common Sense Radio, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. I'll be back again tomorrow night to see if CSFL champion will be able to stay seated on the throne for a third month in the row. That's right, tomorrow night, another monthly returns to the airwaves here on Rip and Common Sense Radio. It's our fantastic fun show. It's an interactive game night where you can play along, try to score points, and see if you can take the crown and the throne and become the fantastic Fun King. It's a lot of fun. Starts tomorrow night, Sunday, October 4th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Doesn't that feel weird to say Sunday, October? October? I feel like it was just September. I really do. I feel like we just had the Fantastic Fun Show and the Mandela Monthly. My goodness, time just really, really flies. That's why we've turned Halloween for the month of October. It's what we call Spooktober. All month long, we're going to be bringing you the frightening, haunted themed stories and games. So tomorrow night is no exception. Fantastic Fun Show will have a Halloween twist to it as we find out who will become the Spooktober Fantastic Fun King or Queen. We had a lot of fun last night with Moneybag 73 in our Mandela Monthly. If you have not had a chance to hear that show, please go back and listen on demand. I hope you're enjoying your Saturday night. I know you're in great hands with Jerry Hicks and the Darkwolf's Den Show. Go ahead and throw some ones in the room. Let him know how much you appreciate him taking the helm on a Saturday night, giving me a break to spend some time with friends and family that I haven't seen for a long time. So thanks, Jerry. My top hat's off to you. And ones in the chat room are for you, sir. Normally, I get to listen to these shows as they happen on Wednesday nights. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so I'm going to be really excited to go back and listen to how the Immortals was presented. Ha! A lot more rabbit hole to explore, I'm sure, as we return now on a Saturday night to Jerry Hicks and the Darkwolf's Den Show as he howls at the Immortals. Stick around. Spooktober. Are you ready for the ultimate Halloween experience? This year, with all the social distancing taking place, Halloween, contrary to popular belief, has not been canceled. I repeat, Halloween has not been canceled. The Rippin' Rabbit Hole is proud to sponsor a unique virtual Halloween event taking place October 15th through the 31st exclusively at ourtrickortreat.com. That's O-U-R, trickortreat.com. Sign up and knock on virtual doors for 17 days straight to win a variety of prizes from national, state, and local sponsors. Check out ourtrickortreat.com for the ultimate Halloween experience this year.
If you were meant to be controlled, you would have come with a remote, but you didn't. And that's why you listen to the Darkwolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and welcome back to the second half of the Darkwolf's Den Show. Whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, or the edge of your seat, we're glad you chose us to be right here with you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Saturday, October 3rd, and we are prime time. That's right, you are not tuned in to the wrong station. You are listening to the Darkwolf's Den Show. We are covering for AJ the Rippin' Rabbit tonight, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this spooky Spooktober episode of Immortals so far. How you guys liking it, right? I know I've enjoyed this information so far, because like I said, I didn't know about the 7 Hindu immortals when I first started doing this research. I just learned about this as soon as you guys did, so that was very fun for me also. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk now about some guys that actually have some historical background. There's some records in history that prove that these people actually existed and yet may be immortal.
If you've ever watched or read The Da Vinci Code, Fullmetal Alchemist, or the latest Fantastic Beast movie, to name but a few examples, then you might remember coming across the character of Nicholas Flamel.
And, of course, if you have heard of Nicholas Flamel, you know there is a lot of rumor and speculation surrounding this character in history, and we'll go through a lot, if not all of that here momentarily. But if you have not heard of Nicholas Flamel, he was an alchemist, a very well-known alchemist, back in the days of alchemy when they were trying to turn lead into gold and transmute different metals into different metals. Maybe I should have caught my wording there. But anyways, Nicholas Flamel was a well-known alchemist, so you guys are going to enjoy this if you haven't heard of him. And if you have heard of him, well, you might enjoy it too, I hope.
He is said to have been an alchemist who succeeded in turning base metals into silver and gold, and even managed to attain immortality. And the reason why he keeps showing up in so many different fictional works is because he actually existed. The real Nicholas Flamel was born in around 1340 in the city of Pontoise, now a suburb of Paris. However, unlike his fictional counterpart, there's nothing that actually points to him being an alchemist. Rather, he was known as a scribe and manuscript seller, and a quite successful one at that.
Once again, if you don't learn something new every day, your day has been wasted. And I have just learned 2 new things now. Well, 8 new things if you count the 7 earlier, if you count those as 7. But anyway, I'm rambling again. I've just learned something new here. I didn't know that he made his money off of being a scribe. I only knew him as being an alchemist.
Aside from his work, he also got a considerable amount of wealth through his marriage to the widow Purnell. Together, the two became known for their philanthropy, contributing financially to poorhouses and churches, sometimes through the commissioning of sculpture. One such example is the now lost portal of the church of Saint-Jacques-de-la-Boucherie, where you could see the couple kneeling down and praying. This church also happens to be where Nicholas Flamel was buried in 1418, having lived into his late 70s.
But you're saying to yourself, I thought you said he might be immortal. If he died, he can't be immortal. Just hang on, the story's not over yet.
His tombstone, which he designed himself, can still be seen at the Musée de Cluny and is carved with the images of Christ, St. Peter and St. Paul. You can even go and visit one of Flamel's houses, which still stands at 51 Rue de Montmorency. It's actually the oldest stone house in the entire city and nowadays contains a restaurant.
I gotta say, I would not mind visiting that place.
On the walls you can find an old inscription which reads, "We, ploughmen and women living at the porch of this house, built in 1407, are requested to every day say an Our Father and an Ave Maria, praying God that His grace forgive poor and dead sinners." But then, this of course begs the question of how Nicholas Flamel the scribe turned into Nicholas Flamel the immortal alchemist.
Yeah, that's pretty much the exact same question me and my audience had, right guys?
Well, one can speculate that the combination of someone dealing with books for a living and then all of a sudden starting to throw money left and right would get some rumors going. Although, as can be seen in his will, there was definitely a limit to his wealth. But what gained him the legendary status that he enjoys today was a series of books published in the 1600s, which had supposedly been written by him. The most famous of them, called The Exposition of the Hieroglyphical Figures, was released in Paris in 1612 and later in London in 1624. The book is about a collection of designs purportedly commissioned by Flamel for the decoration of a portal in the Holy Innocents Cemetery. However, it's the publisher's introduction which is of more importance for the spread of his reputation. It describes how, in around 1378, Nicholas Flamel had travelled to Spain to seek help translating a strange book that he had come across. On the way he met with a sage who identified it as being a copy of the Book of Abramelin.
It really makes me wonder if it was one of the 7 sages that we actually spoke about in the first half, huh?
And with the information that he'd gotten on his trip, Nicholas, together with his wife Purnell, are said to have eventually decoded this book and managed to replicate his recipe for the Philosopher's Stone, producing first silver in 1382 and then gold.
And if this is a true story of Mr. Flamel, then he would be the only alchemist in history to have actually attained the holy grail of alchemy, turning lead into gold.
Before long, the story of Flamel had become well known in circles of alchemy and was, for example, mentioned in works by Isaac Newton. It wasn't until 1761, almost a century and a half after the book had been published, that the validity of the story was first put into question by a certain Etienne Villain. Although he claimed that the story had simply been made up by the publisher, others continued to defend it, and several supposed sightings of the man were made in the 17th and 18th centuries.
Supposed sightings of Nicholas Flamel in the 17th and 18th centuries, when he should have been dead for many centuries at that point already.
Exactly how they would be able to recognize someone who's supposed to have been dead since the Middle Ages is a bit of a mystery to me, but supposing that they were right after all, we would in 2019 be able to congratulate Nicholas Flamel on reaching the ripe old age of roughly 679.
A ripe young age indeed. I don't know, what do you guys think? Think Nicholas Flamel is still walking the earth today? Maybe he's listening to this broadcast, right? Maybe there's an immortal right now listening to this broadcast. If you are one of the immortals, hey, come on, contact me. I'd love to talk to you. I know you probably can't release your identity, right? Anyway, moving along, there are other characters from history, at least one more character from history, that has been said to be immortal. And of course, that character that I speak of is
the Count of Saint Germain, the man who would live forever.
That's right, the Count de Saint Germain. This is an interesting character from history. This is a character that I've always been on the fence about. I cannot figure this out. And as you guys listen, maybe you'll understand why also.
Nobody knew where the Count of Saint Germain came from, or when he was born. In fact, only scant clues elaborate upon the nature and identity of this so-called Count. Still, he made a lasting impression on those he met. And for someone dubbed to be immortal, the list of individuals impressed by him was potentially long.
And already starting the story out, we don't even have a ability to nail down his actual birth time or birth date. So we already have started with a mysterious character, right?
European elites of the 1700s dubbed him the man that never dies. To them, this was a man with an immense talents and intelligence.
Again, these were the European elites of the 1700s, and they were already convinced the man was probably immortal, and that was a long time ago.
His opinions on aging were sought by many, as was his talents in alchemy. Yet the most important thing that many elites on the continent sought was the anti-aging elixir he touted and demonstrated for all to see. By all accounts, he was a celebrity of his time. However, beyond his numerous claims, nobody really knew him. Was he immortal? A magician? A con? Did he come from a legendary place, as some bloggers and theorists claim? Whatever the truth may be, the Count of Saint Germain, also referred as Count Saint Germain or Comte de Saint Germain, had many believing he was immortal, even if his claims defied logic.
So apparently he himself also made the claims that he was immortal.
Man who knows everything. In truth, the slogan associated with Saint Germain was only part of a larger one. The famous French writer and philosopher Voltaire coined the term in its entirety.
And Voltaire, of course, being an extremely well-known both writer and philosopher and taught even today in college courses.
This was the entire slogan dedicated to Saint Germain, a man knows everything and who never dies.
And once again, that is a quote directly from Voltaire's writing.
There was no indication that Voltaire seriously believed this. Voltaire was known for his satirical writing and possibly mocked rather than honoured him. and for all intensive purpose there was plenty in Saint Germain's mystery and sudden appearance in European high society to fuel speculation on Voltaire's intent.
Now that is interesting, and it really goes to the point that a lot is lost in translation, right? It's kind of like text messaging. You can't see the person in front of you, so you don't know whether they're joking or they're being serious, especially if it's a person who's known for their sarcasm anyway. That really makes it harder to kind of decode, right? And just not even in today's day and age, but even looking at this situation here, was Voltaire being serious, or was Voltaire kind of taking some of his angst against Mr. Saint Germain out on him through his writings?
A man of many talents emerges from nowhere. Even a man dubbed as the man that never dies has a beginning. Speculation was that the man known as Saint Germain was born in 1710. Exactly where he was born is an educated guess at best. Even his identity as a count of a royal count is sketchy. Many scholars have studied the man believe that he may have come from the kingdom of Transylvania. Others claim Spain as his origin.
How fitting that he would come from Transylvania. Ha 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 ha. But seriously, that would make him related to Vlad the Impaler, possibly.
Some of the most outlandish theory to date believe that the year 1710 was merely the first time he appeared in Europe, and that he was much older, as he was the last known survivor of Atlantis.
And I must reiterate here that that is pure speculation. Although if you follow the thought back, why not? You know, somebody has to have a beginning, but the beginning may be way, way, way back. We don't know that. But just the same, that is just speculation.
However, of this writing, no verification of his birth date exists. Still, in 1710 is not the most important year in the legend of Saint Germain. That distinction goes back to the year 1743, the first documented evidence of the immortal Count's existence. That year he emerged in London. 2 years later, records of another public appearance emerged in Edinburgh in Scotland. They say he showed off his talents, such as the mastery of playing the violin. The documentation, however, had little to do with his supposed talents. The records indicated accusations and arrests for being a spy.
Now, could that have been the case? Maybe that's why his story was so wild. Perhaps he was just a spy.
From scant evidences available, one can surmise that the accusation stemmed from him being a foreigner and possibly being spotted in suspicious places. But again, this is pure conjecture, with little or no evidence to back it up.
And I appreciate that she did throw out there that it is pure conjecture, so there was no evidence to prove that he was actually a spy either.
The records also revealed how he got out of these allegations. He showed off his talents, such as the mastery of playing the violin. There was no evidence suggesting that his musicianship alone spared him from jail time or trial. Still, he left the British Isles upon release and wasn't heard from for more than a decade.
And amazingly, as I was doing research for this section of the show, I found a lot of sonatas that have been attributed to the Count of Saint Germain.
Saint Germain goes to France. Saint Germain's whereabouts was unknown since his departure from jail, thus illustrating his talent to vanish without a trace. That would change in 1758 when he re-emerged in France. No definitive reason was given for his sudden presence in the country. Still, he quickly attracted the royal family with his many talents, and as a result, he became a regular in the palace of Versailles.
And once again, we find that he has this strange ability to woo the royals very easily.
His time in France made him a celebrity, and possibly the way he did this was by claiming he had a magic potion and was willing to give the recipe to the royal family. In process, he showed off his many talents, which included prodigious musical abilities in various instruments, jewelry making skills, diamond polishing and gem cutting, fluency in several languages, and a mastery in the ancient art of alchemy. And there was also a rumour that he discovered the Philosopher's Stone.
Could this be one and the very same Nicholas Flamel later on in life, after he was supposed to have been dead?
Many accounts claimed he had a way with women too. This was particularly noticed when he became a regular at Versailles. One account claimed that his sexual reputation was so immense that Casanova, the man dubbed the world's greatest lover, seethed with jealousy upon hearing Saint Germain's name uttered in his presence.
So apparently Saint Germain was so much of a ladies' man that Casanova was no fan of his.
The magic elixir. Of the entire boast made and believed, one stood out. Many elites within French and European society noticed his appearance. Seemingly, he remained unchanged by age. The royals and elites of Europe described Saint Germain as looking like a 40-year-old, but possibly being over 100.
And once again, I am reminded of the wandering Jew that we spoke about in the first half, and how he would regenerate back to the age of 30 every century or so. So perhaps all of these immortals are one and the same guy. That's an interesting thought. I've never actually put that together until just now. That's very interesting.
The Count did little to dissuade people from thinking this. In fact, he used it to his own good. It was reported that he kept a vial of liquid. Many who knew the Count, or what the Count wanted them to know about him, believed the liquid was an elixir that kept him alive and ageless.
Perhaps he had found the fountain of youth, or a potion or elixir, an alchemic elixir that he had made up. Some said that it was the color of blood, perhaps blood red, but that's only by anecdotal accounts that I've read.
Once again, poor record keeping and the public's gullibility may have played into Saint Germain's hand. It was never fully determined how people of the time determined he was actually 100 years or more. Saint Germain gets into trouble again. His stay in the French royal court was possibly his finest years. He became wealthy and had the undying support of King Louis XIV and his mistress, Madame de Pompadour. However, the good times for the Count were short-lived. In 1760, the Duke of Choiseul, the Minister of the State, accused Saint Germain of being a spy. Obviously, the Duke was no fan of the Count and was determined to bring him to justice. But King Louis XIV gave him protection from the accusation. Still, the Duke was insistent and convinced the King to allow him to arrest Saint Germain. But the persistent Duke wouldn't get his man. As mentioned, Saint Germain, a man of many talents, had an important and innate one. It was his ability to vanish.
And I guess if you're an immortal, you would have already found quite a few good hiding places in your many years scouring the planet.
Saint Germain moves on to another kingdom. Years went by. Count Saint Germain hopped around various countries, showing off his talents and getting the same enthusiastic treatment from the highest officials in the countries. Eventually, he started garnering the attention of occultists of the time. Rumours also abound that he became a leading figure in several occult movements of the time.
And I really feel that I need to interject right here because a lot of people hear that word occult and go, oh no, evil, evil, bad stuff. No, occult means hidden. That's it. It's just another word for hidden. So the occulted knowledge would be hidden knowledge. These occults are hidden groups, occulted groups. That's all that it means. It's not some evil, nefarious, well, it might be, but it doesn't necessarily connotate or denote that it's going to be evil, bad, or nefarious. It just means secret.
Again, this was something he never denied or confirmed. The prince offered him a house where he could study herbal remedies, chemistry, and alchemy.
And once again, we have this alchemical connection in the story.
In 1776, Saint Germain reportedly resurfaced in Germany under an assumed name. He called himself Count Weldon. He befriended the elites such as King Frederick and Prince Karl of Hesse-Kassel, governor of Schleswig-Holstein. His friendship with Prince Karl proved to be pivotal. The prince offered him a house where he could study herbal remedies, chemistry, and alchemy.
Yeah, you're not the only one that feels like they're having deja vu and that sounds really, really familiar.
A deathbed confession. The year was 1784 and was a fateful one. Something unexpected happened to the man that was believed to be immortal. Pneumonia had bested him. Bedridden in his home and with Prince Karl present, he made a confession. Saint Germain stated that his real name was Francis Rakoczycki II, a deposed prince of Transylvania, who spent much of his early years at Siena University and considered the best education anyone could have had at the time. He claimed he graduated in several subjects, which accounted for his vast knowledge. Soon after this confession, Saint Germain, or Francis Rakoczycki, succumbed to his illness, or so it was believed.
And, of course, for anybody else, that would have been the end of the story. Death, that's it, the end of the game. However, for the Count de Saint Germain, the story actually doesn't happen to end there. Check this out.
The legend lives on. Death, it appeared, wasn't the end of the legend of Saint Germain. In the years to come, rumours and spurious reports of his whereabouts would persist well into the 1800s. In addition, he began to attract the likes of the 19th century Madame Blavatsky and the 20th century W.C. Leadbetter, two well-known theosophists who claimed that Saint Germain communicated with them. In the 20th century, Saint Germain became a prophet of sorts, or referred to as an ascended angel. According to Elizabeth Hare, prophet, leader of the Church Universal Triumph of Pasadena, California, the Count was an immortal angel sent to warn the world of bad omens.
Now, I don't know about the speculation, and of course we can speculate all day, and that's always fun, but what do you guys think? We've heard a lot tonight. We've heard about religious sides. We've heard about historical sides. Perhaps that is a grain of truth to them. Perhaps there is an immortal or two that walk the earth and that come out every now and again. They might be your neighbor. They might be your best friend. You never know. You never know if there's an immortal near you or not, right? How could you know? They look just like you and I, right? Well, most of them. The Wandering Jew might have a little worse clothing than the rest of us, but, you know, there's all kind of examples in the case files of people who may very well never did taste of death. Those who may tarry until the time of the end. Those who may be immortal. But in the end, ladies and gentlemen, as always, you be the judge. we got to close it out. That's right. That's it for this episode of the Darkwolf's Den Show for Saturday, October 3rd, 2020. I cannot believe it, guys. Cannot believe we did a full prime time episode. Can you guys believe it? We absolutely accomplished it. I hope you guys have both learned something, as well as I know I learned quite a bit doing this episode, as well as had a wonderful time. So whether you're on the edge of reality, the edge of the galaxy, the edge of your seat, or anywhere in between, we're glad you chose us to be right there with you. Ladies and gentlemen, the den may be closing, but don't you worry, the weekend fun is not over just yet. As a matter of fact, the weekend fun has literally just begun with what's coming up tomorrow, because AJ the Rippin' Rabbit over there, our buddy, will be back for the most fun you can have on radio. That's right, it is the monthly Fantastic Fun Show. Will CSLL champion hold on to the seat and continue to be the Fantastic Fun King? Or will we have a Fantastic Fun King Queen? We will have to see. Will he be dethroned, or will he do the first ever triple run? He's already done the first one to take it since I had it, as well as doing the first time to get it 2 times in a row. So, way to go, CSFL champion. You've already wrote your name in the history books. Let's see how much further you can hold it out. If you want to challenge him, guys, just come on over to the Rippin' Rabbit Hole live show tomorrow night, Sunday, October 4th, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Rippin' Common Sense Radio. It is a live trivia, hands-on, all hands-on board game. Everybody has a chance. Everybody has an ability to win. You never know, you could be the next Fantastic Fun King or Fun King Queen. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, that will round out this weekend, but don't you worry. We will be back on Wednesday to kick off a brand new weekend for everybody. That's right, Wednesday, October 7th, or I should say Wednesday, Spooktober 7th, we will be back with an all-new spooktacular episode, that's right, of the Darkwolf's Den Show. I don't quite know what we'll be talking about yet, but I do know that it's going to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, I would like to tell you guys about my favorite amazing hangout called the RippinRabbitHole.com. That's right. It is RippinRabbitHole.com. That's right. Over there you're going to find the 24/7 backstage lounge. That is where we have a whole slew of people from around the world that love to continue the conversation, because for you guys the conversation's in here, but for the Rippin' Rabbits the conversation is just beginning. Just go over there to that RippinRabbitHole.com, select the 24/7 backstage lounge, scroll about halfway down the page, select the VIP lounge entrance, and come on in and hang out with the entire crew of people. I won't be back there immediately after the show. I actually have another thing that I need to go do real quick, a previous commitment of sorts, so I will be running a couple hours late, but I will be back there in about an hour and a half or so hanging out with you guys. So I look forward to it, guys. Like I said, I'm going to be late, but I will be there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. And on behalf of everybody who has helped to put this show together, on behalf of AJ the Rippin' Rabbit, and on behalf of Rippin' Common Sense Radio, we thank you for being here. And remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. How yeah! Prime time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Prime time, and that howl means you guys spent another Saturday night together with the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. My top hat's off to you, Jerry Hicks, for filling in my absence tonight. If you enjoyed the Darkwolf's Den Show, look at the Immortals, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get our notifications every time we go live. We're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best of Common Sense Radio, the Rippin' Rabbit Hole. I will return tomorrow night for our monthly installment of the fantastic fun show. Who will be seated on the throne by this time tomorrow night? Tune in Sunday, October 4th at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and find out. Will CSFL champion remain seated on the throne? Or perhaps will a fantastic fun queen take the crown, preventing him from performing a hat trick on the Fantastic Fun Show? Fun nights, interactive, Halloween-themed games, riddles, and puzzles. We're going to find out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, my top hat's off to all of you for being here on a Saturday night. Give yourselves that round of applause for being smart enough to be here. We appreciate each and every one of you from around the world through every one of the rabbit holes that we explore. Common Sense Radio. If you have not done so already, please make your way on over to the ribbonrabbithole.com. Spend some time looking around our community-generated press. A lot of fun things you can do and see there, including the backstage VIP 24/7 chat lounge. Because for many of you, the conversations end here, but for the Ribbon Rabbits, the conversations continue in the VIP 24/7 chat lounge. Add your camera, your microphone, pull up a chair, and join the conversations. So, wherever you are, good morning, good evening, or good day. I'm AJ, the Ribbon Rabbit. Till we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.
That he would someday return. He said he never found her and he's still looking. It is said he searches rivers for some sign, but the truth is that he caught her down in Georgetown with a Spaniard who had left his wife behind.
Are you ready for the ultimate Halloween experience? This year, with all the social distancing taking place, Halloween, contrary to popular belief, has not been canceled. I repeat, Halloween has not been canceled. The Rippin' Rabbit Hole is proud to sponsor a unique virtual Halloween event taking place October 15th through the 31st exclusively at ourtrickortreat.com. That's O-U-R, trickortreat.com. Sign up and knock on virtual doors for 17 days straight to win a variety of prizes from national, state, and local sponsors. Check out ourtrickortreat.com for the ultimate Halloween experience this year.
Unlocked and into the dark. Some things are better left unknown. And I'll never find you here, 'cause no one's ever Oh, what a widow, a peaceful spider. When the grass is green, she's a sneaky hider.